Rain poured in sheets over the city streets, a gray blur that made everything feel smaller, lonelier, impossible to navigate. Lena clutched her coat tighter, wishing the storm would pass faster, or that someone, anyone, would appear to share the burden of this wet, miserable evening. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger appeared, holding a navy blue umbrella just big enough for two. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. A spark, a question, a silent understanding, and before she knew it, Lena was walking under the same umbrella, her wet hair pressed against a stranger's coat. Neither of them spoke. Words seemed unnecessary. The storm had already said everything. And in that fleeting moment, as the city's lights blurred and the rain washed the streets clean, a lifetime quietly began. Because sometimes, the smallest act, a shared umbrella, a fleeting glance, a single step into the unknown, can change everything. And on this rain-soaked night, everything was about to change for Lena and Ethan. Before we dive into the thrilling details of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories. The rain came without warning, one of those sudden summer downpours that sweeps across the city as if the clouds have been waiting all day for the perfect moment to spill over. Commuters scattered beneath awnings and bus stop roofs, but one young woman remained frozen on the corner of Maple and Fifth, her hands full of groceries and her only umbrella sitting uselessly on her kitchen table. Lena exhaled a defeated sigh, hugging her paper bag of ingredients for her grandmother's favorite soup. This was supposed to be a comforting evening, one spent honoring memories. Instead, she was being soaked to the bone in the middle of rush hour. That was when a navy blue umbrella lowered gently over her head. "You look like you could use this more than I can," said a warm voice beside her. She turned to find a man, about her age, tall, dark hair plastered at the ends, rain dripping from his jacket, offering just enough dry space for both of them. His smile was kind, the type that didn't rush or assume. Thank you," Lena said, startled. "I really thought I could outrun it." He chuckled. "Nobody outruns a July storm. I'm Ethan." "Lena." They stood awkwardly close, but not uncomfortably so, as they waited for the crosswalk light to change. The umbrella forced their worlds to overlap, her oranges rolling dangerously on the edge of the paper bag, his sketchbook sticking out of his satchel, drying slowly in the small pocket of protection they shared. When the light turned, he matched his pace to hers, holding the umbrella just slightly more toward her side than his own. "Where are you headed?" he asked. "Home. I'm making soup. For someone who used to love it." He didn't ask for details, only nodded in a way that said he understood loss without needing the story. "I'm going to the old art museum," he said. "They're closing down the West Wing tonight for renovations. I wanted to sketch it before they cover everything." Lena brightened. "The stained glass walkway?" His grin widened. "You know it. Everyone who grew up here knows it. My grandmother used to take me there every year." "Then come with me," he said impulsively. "Just for a few minutes. It'll still be raining when we get out." She hesitated, but something in the rain, in the quiet way he held the umbrella, in the soft echo of her grandmother's memory, nudged her gently forward. "Okay," she said. "Just a few minutes." They walked together through the storm, and by the time they reached the museum steps, Lena realized she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. Inside, the stained glass shimmered under the dimming evening light, sending colors rippling over the marble floor like reflections on water. Ethan opened his sketchbook, and Lena watched as he drew with swift, thoughtful strokes. When he looked up, catching her gaze, they both laughed in that shy, new way that said something unexpected was rooting itself between them. But just as Lena leaned in, just as Ethan began to say something that sounded dangerously like hope, her phone vibrated sharply. She checked the screen. Her expression fell. Ethan saw it immediately. "Everything okay?" She swallowed, eyes widening with panic. "It's my grandfather," she whispered. He's missing." The rain outside intensified, drumming against the museum windows. Ethan closed his sketchbook. "Lena, what do you need me to do?" She looked at him, this stranger who had shared an umbrella, and felt her heart lurch. I don't know," she murmured. And then her phone buzzed again. This time, The message made her grip the rail for balance. Because her grandfather had sent one final location pin. Right outside the museum. To be continued. You said, continue. ChatGPT said, continuation. Two strangers shared an umbrella, and a lifetime began in the rain. Lena's breath caught as she stared at the blinking pin on her screen. Outside, she whispered. But why would he be? Ethan didn't wait for explanation. Come on. They hurried down the museum steps, the storm clinging to every surface like a warning. Ethan held the umbrella again, but this time neither of them noticed who was getting wet, only that they had to get to her grandfather now. The moment they stepped outside, Lena scanned the sidewalk, the street, the drenched benches, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. There. Ethan pointed. An elderly figure in a gray coat stood under a flickering street lamp, facing away from them. The rain pooled around his shoes. His shoulders were hunched, not in coldness, but in confusion. "Grandpa!" Lena shouted, dropping the groceries and running toward him. The man turned slowly. It was her grandfather, but something was off. His eyes were distant, unfocused, as if he were searching for something far beyond the storm. "Lena?" he rasped, blinking against the rain. "I couldn't find the door." She wrapped her arms around him, relief and fear tangling inside her. Ethan folded the umbrella down and joined them, the storm soaking all three of them now. "Grandpa, what are you doing here?" she asked gently. "You should be home." "I was trying to go there," he murmured. "Your grandmother, she told me to meet her here. Said she had something to show me." Lena froze. Her grandmother had passed away 2 years ago. Ethan shot Lena a cautious look. Maybe he meant a memory? The museum, maybe he was remembering something you all shared here. Lena nodded shakily. She had known her grandfather's mind was slipping, but she hadn't realized how quickly. "Come on," she whispered, taking his hand. "Let's get you somewhere warm." But as they turned to leave, thunder cracked overhead, and her grandfather stiffened. "No," he said abruptly, pulling back. "She's still here. I have to find her, before they take it away." "Before what is taken away?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. The old man lifted a shaking hand and pointed at the museum, at the very wing Ethan had come to sketch, the one being closed that night. "They're sealing the door tonight," her grandfather whispered. "And she told me that if we don't open it, your grandmother's message will be lost forever." Ethan exchanged a startled glance with Lena. "Message?" Ethan echoed. "What kind of message?" Her grandfather looked between them, rain running down his face like tears, before leaning in. "No. You met each other years ago. You simply don't remember." Ethan paled. Lena stepped back. Lightning flashed. "Grandpa," she said carefully. "What door? What message? What are you talking about?" But her grandfather only turned and began walking toward the West Wing entrance, as if he suddenly knew exactly where he was going. Ethan touched Lena's shoulder. "Do we follow him?" She stared at the museum, at the sealed door her grandfather insisted held a message from the past, one linked to a boy she couldn't remember and a stranger she had just met. "I think we have to," she breathed. They took a step toward the door. And at that exact moment, a loud metallic bang echoed from inside the museum. Her grandfather stopped. Ethan grabbed her hand. The door to the West Wing rattled once. And then began to slowly creak open on its own. The heavy door groaned open just enough for a sliver of darkness to show. No lights, no movement, just an echoing hush, as if the museum itself were holding its breath. Ethan instinctively stepped slightly in front of Lena, though he kept her hand firmly in his own. Her grandfather, oddly calm now, strode forward with surprising steadiness. "Grandpa, wait," Lena called, but he slipped through the crack in the door before she could catch him. Ethan squeezed her hand. "We're not letting him go alone." They pushed the door open farther and followed into the West Wing. Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of dust and old varnish. The wing had already been mostly cleared for renovations, paintings removed from the walls, statues draped in white sheets like sleeping giants. Emergency lights flickered low along the ceiling, casting long shadows that stretched like reaching hands across the marble floor. "Grandpa!" Lena whispered. His voice echoed somewhere ahead. Just a little farther. She said it would be right here. Who? Ethan called. But the old man didn't answer. They followed the sound of shuffling footsteps until they reached the end of the hallway, a dead end where a massive stained glass mural once stood, now covered by protective construction boards. Her grandfather stood in front of it, tracing invisible shapes through the air with trembling fingers. "This is where we first brought you," he murmured. "You were 5. The colors, oh, you loved the colors." Lena swallowed. "Grandpa, I don't remember that." He turned to her, eyes suddenly clear and sharp, too clear. "You don't remember because something happened that day," he said. "Something you and that boy promised to forget." Ethan blinked. "Boy? You mean me?" Her grandfather nodded. Lena stared at Ethan as if seeing him for the first time. "But we never met," Ethan whispered. "I would have remembered someone like her. I know I would have." Her grandfather reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small brass key, old, ornate, shaped like a teardrop. "She told me to give you this," he said, placing it in Ethan's palm. "Said you're the only one who can open it." "Open what?" Ethan asked. The ground rumbled softly beneath their feet, like distant thunder but from inside the walls. Her grandfather stepped back. "It's waking up." Lena grabbed Ethan's arm. "What's waking up?" The boards covering the stained glass mural vibrated. Dust trickled down. A faint glowing light pulsed behind the wood, shimmering in hues of blue and gold. Ethan stared at the key in his hand. "I think it wants us to use this," he said quietly. Before Lena could respond, the lights in the hallway flickered violently, and then went out completely, plunging them into darkness. Lena gasped. "Ethan!" "I'm right here," he said, gripping her hand. Her grandfather's voice came thin and frightened from somewhere in the dark. "They're coming. You must hurry." "Whose?" A sharp, heavy knock slammed from behind the sealed mural, cutting Ethan off. Then another. And another, rhythmic, deliberate, as if someone, or something, on the other side wanted to get out. Ethan grabbed the key. "We need light. We need to see what we're doing." Lena fumbled for her phone, thumb shaking as she tried to turn on the flashlight. But before she could, a whisper crept through the darkness behind them, a voice neither of them recognized. So, echoing. Close. Lena, Finted opened the door. They froze, because the voice sounded like someone who shouldn't be alive. Someone Lena had buried 2 years ago. Her grandmother. Lena's blood ran cold. The voice, gentle, warm, impossibly familiar, drifted through the darkness like a breeze through a half-open window. "Grandma," she whispered, her throat tightening. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand, grounding her. "It can't be." But before he could finish, her grandfather stepped forward, his silhouette outlined only by the faint glow pulsing behind the boarded mural. "She's been waiting," he murmured. "But we must open the door before they find us." "Grandpa, who is they?" Lena demanded, fear sharpening her voice. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached trembling fingers toward the wooden boards as if trying to peel back the years themselves. Ethan raised the brass key, its metal warm now, too warm, as though responding to the glowing stained glass. "Lena," he whispered, "I don't know what's happening, but I think this key is meant for us both. I think whatever is behind there, it's tied to what we forgot." The knocking on the mural grew louder, urgent, insistent. Bang, bang, bang. Her grandmother's soft voice overlapped with it, still calling their names. "Lena, open the door to this." Tears filled Lena's eyes. "Grandma, if it's really you, say something else. Something only I would know." A beat of silence. "You used to hide sugar cubes in my coat pocket," the voice answered, light with fond laughter. "Your mother could never understand why the mice loved my closet." Lena's hand flew to her mouth. "That's impossible," she whispered. Ethan swallowed hard. "Then we open it. Together." He positioned the key toward the faint outline of the mural's center, where a small, ornate keyhole shimmered into visibility as the glow intensified. Lena stepped beside him and placed her hand over his. The moment their hands aligned, something sparked. A burst of light flared from the stained glass, illuminating the hallway in a swirl of colors, blues, golds, greens, like a living storm trapped behind crystal. The boards shuddered, dust raining down as if the museum itself exhaled. Her grandfather stepped back, shielding his eyes. "Hurry," he cried. "The window won't stay open." Ethan and Lena pressed forward, forcing the key into the shimmering keyhole. It slid in as if drawn by invisible hands. Lena inhaled sharply. "Ready?" Ethan whispered. "No," she answered honestly. "But do it anyway." Together, they turned the key. The sound was soft, surprisingly soft, like a lock clicking open on a jewelry box. But the result was anything but gentle. The mural exploded with light. The boards flew off as if blown from the inside, clattering across the marble floor. The stained glass blazed, its colors whirling and rearranging themselves in impossible patterns, forming images, faces, memories, moments Lena couldn't quite grasp. A gust of warm air rushed out of the opening, carrying the scent of lilacs, her grandmother's perfume. And then, slowly, impossibly, a doorway appeared beneath the stained glass. Not a metaphorical doorway. A real one, arched, glowing, swirling like a portal of water suspended in air. Ethan stared. "What is that?" Lena shook her head. I don't know." Her grandfather pointed at the opening, desperation etched across his face. "She's inside," he whispered. "Your grandmother. She said you must enter. Both of you. Before it closes." A crack splintered through the glowing frame. The portal flickered. They were running out of time. Ethan turned to Lena, rainwater and stained glass light reflecting in his eyes. "We go together," he said softly. "Like we did before, whenever before was." Lena reached for his hand. But just as their fingers touched, a shadowy figure stepped between them and the glowing doorway. Silent, featureless, blocking the entrance. Her grandfather gasped. "No, not them, not now." The portal flickered again, shrinking. The shadow moved closer. Ethan pulled Lena behind him. "Who are you?" he demanded. The figure tilted its head, and in a distorted, echoing version of her grandmother's voice, it whispered, "You should never have opened the door." The distorted voice slithered through the dying light of the portal, sending a cold tremor through Lena's spine. It sounded like her grandmother, but stretched, twisted, as though someone were mimicking a melody they had never heard properly. Ethan stood firm between Lena and the shadow, though she could feel the tension in his arm. Her grandfather stumbled backward, shaking his head wildly. No, it's one of the Watchers," he whispered. "They guard the message. They guard her. You weren't supposed to open it yet?" The figure stepped forward. Its form flickered like a candle behind frosted glass. No clear edges, just a wavering, human-like outline made of shadow and mist. "Step aside," it said in that warped voice. "You were children when the agreement was made. You were not meant to return." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Agreement? We don't even remember being here." "And you were meant to forget," the figure replied. "For your own safety." Behind it, the portal shrank another inch, pulsing irregularly like a failing heartbeat. Lena forced herself forward. "If my grandmother is really in there, alive or not, I need to see her. I need to know the truth." The shadow tilted its head as though studying her. "If you enter, the forgetting ends. All of it. Even the parts that broke you." Lena froze. Beside her, Ethan stiffened. "What parts?" The figure's silence was answer enough. A faint image suddenly flickered across the surface of the portal. A momentary flash that made Lena's breath hitch. Two children, maybe 5 or 6 years old, standing together beneath the very same stained glass mural. A boy with dark hair. A girl clutching a sugar cube. Both laughing. She gasped. "That's..." The image vanished before she could finish. Ethan stared at the now empty glow, shaken. "That was us." Lena grabbed his hand instinctively. He didn't pull away. Her grandfather lurched toward the shadow. "Let them through." Their grandmother wanted them to see it. She foresaw this. She prepared for it. The Watcher turned its faceless head toward him. "You have already broken your vow." Your time here is over. Before Lena or Ethan could react, the Watcher raised an arm made of swirling mist and pointed at her grandfather. A pulse of dark light shot forward. "Grandpa!" Lena screamed. Ethan pulled her aside, but the beam didn't hit them. It struck her grandfather square in the chest. He staggered, clutched his heart, and collapsed to his knees. "No, no, no!" Lena cried, scrambling to him. He was breathing, but faintly, as though something vital had been pulled from him. "My time doesn't matter," he panted, reaching for her hand. "Lena, you must go inside, find her, and find the truth before it's too late." His hand slipped from hers, falling to the floor. Not lifeless, but emptied. The Watcher turned back to them. "The portal closes soon. You cannot save him here. Choose, enter, and face what you lost, or stay and lose everything." The portal flashed violently, shrinking again. Ethan grabbed Lena's shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "We can't leave your grandfather," he said. "But if we don't go," she whispered, tears streaming, "we'll never know what happened to us, or why my grandmother called us." A thunderous crack rippled through the room. The portal was down to half its size. The Watcher stepped aside, no longer blocking their path. "Choose." Lena looked at the portal, then at Ethan, then at her grandfather, unconscious in the fading stained glass glow. Her heart screamed in every direction at once. "We go together," Ethan said again. "Whatever's in there, we face it side by side." Lena nodded, lifting trembling fingers to wipe her tears. Together, they ran, hand in hand, sprinting toward the shrinking arch of swirling light, the Watchers' gaze heavy on their backs. Just as they reached the threshold, another voice echoed from inside the portal. "So familiar. Hurry, children." Lena's grandmother. Ethan tightened his grip. They jumped into the light, and the moment they crossed the threshold, everything went white. The wind roared around them, spinning, pulling, flinging, until their feet hit solid ground. They staggered, blinking, trying to make sense of the dim new world around them. Ethan was the first to find his voice. "Lena," he whispered, staring into the shadows ahead, "tell me you're seeing that." She followed his gaze, and her breath caught in her throat, because standing only a few feet away, wearing the same lilac perfume and the same gentle smile Lena remembered from childhood, was her grandmother. Except she wasn't alone. She held the hand of a little boy. A boy who looked exactly like Ethan. The wind howled around them, but in the space before Lena and Ethan, the world felt impossibly still. Her grandmother's eyes were soft, yet urgent, and the little boy at her side stared at Ethan with wide, incredulous eyes, eyes that mirrored his own. Lena stumbled forward. "Grandma, this how?" Her grandmother lifted a finger, silencing her before she could speak. "There's no time to explain everything. But you, both of you, were never meant to forget each other. And now, the choice comes. You can stay here with me and learn the truth of our family, or return to the world you know, with the memory of this erased forever." Ethan swallowed hard, staring at the boy, himself as a child, yet somehow not just a memory. "If we stay, what happens to the world we left behind? My grandfather, Lena." Her grandmother's eyes softened. "He will be protected, but the world outside will move on, unaware. You will have knowledge others do not. Knowledge of what really binds our family together, and what the Watchers have tried to hide for generations." The little boy, Ethan as a child, stepped closer to him. His small hand reached up, trembling, and Ethan instinctively mirrored him. Their fingers touched, like two halves of the same puzzle snapping into place. A warmth spread through Ethan, a memory he couldn't fully grasp but knew belonged to him, to Lena, to them both. Lena felt a pull, a tug on her heart, like invisible threads tying her to this strange, impossible scene. "I don't understand," she said. "Why are we here? But now?" Her grandmother's voice grew soft, almost a whisper, carried on the strange wind around them. "Because it's always been time. Time to remember. Time to face what was hidden. Time to decide who you truly are, together." The glowing portal they had crossed began to shimmer and pulse behind them, as if counting down. Lena turned back. Instinctively, the world they had left, the museum, the rain-soaked streets, her grandfather lying unconscious in the marble hall, was fading like mist at dawn. Ethan gripped her hand. We can't go back. Not yet. Not without answers. She nodded, her resolve solidifying. Then we stay. Her grandmother smiled, reaching out her hand. Then step forward. All will be revealed, but be warned. Once you enter the Hall of Memories, nothing will ever be the same. Lena and Ethan exchanged a glance, fear, hope, and something like destiny shining in their eyes. Together, they took a step toward her grandmother. And the moment they did, the world around them shifted. The wind ceased. The swirling light of the portal dissolved. And suddenly, they were standing in a vast hall. A hall lined with glowing frames, each one showing moments of the past. Some were their own memories, some belonged to ancestors they had never met. All of them alive, moving, whispering secrets in a language Lena felt she almost understood. Ethan's voice trembled. This is incredible. Be careful, her grandmother warned. Not every memory is safe. Not every secret can be faced without consequence. And some are waiting for you to choose wrong. Lena stepped closer to one frame. Inside it, she saw a younger version of herself, holding a small sugar cube, reaching for a tiny door under the stained glass mural. Next to her, a boy, Ethan, as a child, stood frozen in fear. She gasped. It was us. All along. We promised something, we promised each other. Ethan's eyes widened. That's why we met today. The umbrella, the rain, everything. It wasn't random. Her grandmother nodded. Fate has cycles. And some cycles must be completed. A sudden chill ran through the hall. A shadow darker than anything in the frames coalesced in the corner of the room. It moved with purpose, heading toward them. The Watchers, her grandmother whispered, voice trembling. They followed you. And this time, they will not let you choose easily. Ethan tightened his grip on Lena's hand. We face it. Together. Lena swallowed, her heart pounding, the glow of memories reflecting in her wide eyes. Together, she echoed. The shadow loomed closer, stretching and twisting like smoke in a storm. Its voice, many voices at once, echoed around the hall. You do not belong here. Leave, or be lost forever. Lena and Ethan exchanged a final glance, knowing that stepping forward meant everything could change, and that once they faced what was coming, there might be no turning back. And then, with a courage neither of them knew they had, they stepped toward the shadow. The hall trembled. The frames flickered. And at that very moment, a voice, unmistakable and loving, whispered in Lena's ear. Remember who you are, or lose everything you've ever known. The shadow loomed closer, a mass of darkness that swallowed the glowing frames of memory as it moved. Its voice, a chorus of whispered threats, filled the vast hall, sending shivers through Lena and Ethan. Her grandmother stepped forward, placing a trembling hand on Lena's shoulder. They are bound to the hall, she said softly. They feed on fear, on hesitation. But you hold the key. Together. Ethan swallowed hard. What key? The key to remembering, she said, her eyes glimmering. To reclaiming the promise you made long ago. You were children then, and they forced you to forget. But the bond never broke. It only waited for you to return. The shadow raised a swirling, smoky arm, pointing directly at them. You cannot escape. You do not belong. Step back or be consumed. Lena felt the familiar tug in her chest, the memory of sugar cubes, laughter, and a rainy day long ago. She closed her eyes, summoning it all. The moment she did, she felt warmth spreading through her body, connecting her to Ethan. We belong here, she said, opening her eyes with fierce determination. We promised, and we remember now. The shadow recoiled slightly, as if the memory light was painful to it. Ethan nodded beside her, his hand gripping hers tightly. We face you together. You won't stop us. The shadow hissed, writhing like a stormy cloud. The hall shook, the frames flickering violently, some memories splintering into shards of light. But Lena and Ethan stepped forward, each pulse of courage pushing them closer to the heart of the hall. Suddenly, a golden light emerged from the very center of the hall, a memory they had never seen before. It showed Lena and Ethan, both children, standing beneath the stained glass mural. Behind them, a woman with kind eyes, her grandmother, smiled and placed a small, brass key in Ethan's hand. "They planned this," Lena whispered, her voice trembling. "It's always been meant to bring us back here." Her grandmother nodded. "The hall only opens for those who remember the bond. The Watchers were never meant to win. They test, they threaten, but they cannot break a promise made in true memory and love." The shadow shrieked, the sound scraping against the walls like thunder. Lena and Ethan took another step, the golden light from the memory growing, pushing the darkness back. Lena raised her voice. "We remember, and we will not forget." The hall vibrated, frames glowing brighter as shards of shadow dissolved. The Watchers hissed in fury, twisting and writhing, but the more Lena and Ethan stepped forward, the stronger the memory light became. Ethan's grip tightened. "Together," he said again. Lena nodded, and they moved as one, their hearts pounding in unison. The golden light now enveloped them, reaching toward the shadow, forcing it backward. The shadow let out one final, echoing wail before dissipating entirely, leaving the hall bathed in pure, warm light. The memories shimmered and settled, each one alive, yet calm. Her grandmother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "You've done it. You've reclaimed what was lost. The bond, the promise, it's yours again." Lena exhaled, relief flooding her. She looked at Ethan, his face wet with rain from the earlier storm and now glistening with hope. "We did it," she whispered. Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "Together," he said softly. Her grandmother placed her hands on their shoulders. "The hall will remain open now, for you and those who come after. But remember, the world outside doesn't know yet. And some mysteries remain, even for those who remember." Lena's grandfather appeared at the edge of the hall, alive and smiling, though pale. He had recovered from the Watchers' attack, seemingly strengthened by their courage. "You did it," he said quietly. "I always knew you would." As Lena, Ethan, and her grandfather embraced, the light of the hall shimmered, and somewhere deep in its corners, a faint whisper lingered. "Not everything is revealed, yet." And far above, in the rafters of the hall, the faintest shadows stirred again. The hall was quiet now, but Lena felt it pulsing beneath her feet, like it was alive. The memories shimmered in golden light around them, each frame whispering fragments of the past. Her grandmother stepped closer, a gentle smile on her lips. "The hall has tested you," she said. "It allowed the Watchers to challenge you, to see if your bond would hold. But you have proven it, and yet, not all is revealed." Lena exchanged a glance with Ethan. "Not all?" she asked. "There's more." Her grandmother nodded. "Some truths are hidden in time itself. The promise you made as children, it was part of something greater than yourselves. You will understand fully only when you face what remains outside this hall. The world you left behind, and the people who are waiting for you to return." Ethan frowned. "Outside? Do you mean the storm? My grandfather?" "Yes," her grandmother said. "More. There is someone waiting for you, someone who will change the course of everything you thought you knew. But first," she reached toward the nearest glowing frame. "You must remember the final part of your promise." Lena stepped forward, hesitant but determined. She looked into the frame. Inside, she saw herself as a child, hiding behind the stained glass mural, holding a sugar cube. Ethan, then a boy, was beside her, eyes wide and anxious. Their hands touched, and in that moment, a small, shimmering symbol appeared in the light, a heart entwined with a tiny key. "I remember this," Lena whispered. "We promised we would always find each other, no matter what." Ethan's eyes widened as he looked at the symbol. "That's the key to the memories, to the bond. It's been guiding us all along." Her grandmother smiled softly. "Exactly. And now, the last step, you must leave this hall together. Go back to the world outside, to the rain, to the streets where your story truly began." There, the final truth awaits, and the person you are meant to protect and to love will reveal themselves. Lena's heart leapt. Back outside? Yes, her grandmother said. The hall cannot follow you, but the watchers, they will. And they will try one last time to separate you. You must be ready. Ethan took her hand. Then we face it together. Always. Her grandmother nodded, placing her hands over theirs. A warm, golden light enveloped them, lifting them off the floor. The hall blurred around them, the memories spinning past like leaves in a storm. And then, in the blink of an eye, they were standing back on the rainy streets of the city. The storm had not let up. Rain fell in heavy sheets, pooling on the sidewalks and splashing off rooftops. Lena's grandfather was there, recovering, but something felt different. Lena, Ethan, her grandfather said, voice trembling. The storm, it's not just weather. It's them. The watchers. They followed you here. Lena shivered, gripping Ethan's hand tightly. Across the street, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked in darkness, its face impossible to see, yet emanating the same chilling presence as the hall's watchers. They've come for you, her grandfather warned. Ethan tightened his grip on Lena's hand. Then we don't run. We face them. Together. The figure stepped closer, and the rain seemed to grow heavier, as if the storm itself were alive and moving with it. Then, from beneath the figure's cloak, a familiar voice whispered, soft, melodic, and impossible to forget. Lena, Ethan, you should not have returned. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She recognized that voice instantly. Her grandmother. But something was wrong. It was not the same warmth she remembered. It was cold, distant, distorted. Ethan's eyes widened. Grandma? Lena swallowed hard. No, it can't be. The watcher's shadow shifted, stretching impossibly long across the rain-soaked street. Its voice echoed again. To move forward, you must choose. Save each other, or save the one you love. Choose wisely, children, before the storm ends. The rain fell harder. The city blurred around them. Time seemed to slow. And at that moment, Lena realized. Their story, the promise, the umbrella, it all led to this single choice. A choice that would change everything. The rain hammered down in relentless sheets, soaking Lena and Ethan as they faced the watcher. The figure loomed, impossibly tall, the darkness swirling around it like living smoke. And yet, beneath the cloak of shadow, Lena could see the faintest glimmer of her grandmother's eyes, familiar, yet twisted. You should not have returned, the voice whispered again, soft but chilling, carrying a weight that pressed against Lena's chest. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. We don't care what you are. We'll face you together. The watcher tilted its head. Together, it echoed, voice reverberating unnaturally. But even together, a choice must be made. One of you may survive, one may be lost, unless you understand the promise fully. Lena swallowed hard, her mind racing. The umbrella, the rain, the memories of their childhood together, hidden for so long. The sugar cubes, the mural, the brass key. It's the bond, she whispered. The promise. We promise to always protect each other. Always. Ethan nodded, eyes bright with determination. And that promise hasn't ended. Not now, not ever. The watcher hissed, the air vibrating with its fury. Then prove it. To save the other, or save the one you love. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Ethan, their fingers intertwined. Her chest tightened. How could she choose between the boy she had grown to trust in hours and the man she had yet to fully know, but somehow loved across a lifetime she barely remembered? Ethan's gaze met hers. Lena, whatever happens, we face this together. We don't give up. The shadow surged forward, the rain whipping around them like a storm unleashed. For a moment, Lena felt herself being pulled, torn between fear and memory, between safety and destiny. Then, clarity. No, Lena said, her voice ringing over the storm. I won't choose. We won't choose. We face this, together. Always. Ethan nodded, voice firm. Together. The watcher paused. The rain seemed to hesitate as if listening. Then, slowly, the darkness around it began to recede. Its voice, softer now, carried a trace of awe. Remember the promise. The bond, it is stronger than fear, stronger than death, stronger than time itself. The shadow dissolved like mist, the storm above breaking into a soft drizzle. The city around them glimmered in the fading light, reflections of water painting gold and silver on the pavement. Lena's grandfather appeared at their side, breathing heavily but smiling. "You did it," he said. "You remembered. You faced them together. And you survived." Ethan looked at Lena, rain dripping from his hair, eyes shining. "We really did it," he said softly. Lena smiled, feeling warmth she hadn't realized she had been missing. "Together," she whispered, leaning slightly into him. And at that moment, a soft, familiar voice drifted through the clearing sky. Her grandmother, this time fully herself, spoke with gentle pride. "You've remembered who you are, children. And in doing so, you've begun a lifetime together. Not just of love, but of courage and of family. You've kept your promise." Lena looked at Ethan, and then at her grandfather, and finally at the rain-slick streets that had begun it all. Her heart felt full, heavy with memory, love, and hope. But just as they started walking back, hand in hand, toward the warmth of home and family, a flicker of shadow passed across the corner of Lena's eye. And somewhere in the distance, another whisper floated on the wind. "The promise has begun, but the story is not finished." The whisper lingered in the air, curling around Lena and Ethan like smoke. The rain had softened, leaving the city slick and shining, but the chill in the atmosphere remained, an unspoken warning that their journey was not yet over. Lena tightened her grip on Ethan's hand. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. "Yeah. The promise, it's not finished. Whatever that means, it's still out there." Her grandfather, standing nearby, brushed rain from his coat and shook his head slowly. "The Watchers don't disappear completely. Even when defeated, they linger. They test you for watch. They exist wherever a promise is at stake." Lena shivered, but a spark of determination lit her eyes. "Then we have to find them. Whatever they want. Whatever is left." Ethan glanced down the glistening street. "Together." "Together," Lena confirmed. The city was quiet now, the storm's fury spent. Yet the memory of the hall, the portal, the glowing frames, and the childlike promises lingered in their minds. They both knew this was only the beginning. As they walked toward the direction her grandfather indicated, the street lamps flickered. Then, in the distance, they saw it. A shadowy figure slipping through the alleyways, moving with impossible speed and purpose. "That's one of them," her grandfather said gravely. "And it's leading you somewhere." Lena hesitated. "Leading us where?" Her grandfather shook his head. "I don't know. But your grandmother's message wasn't just about the hall. She foresaw this. She knew you'd need to face them again. Out here, in the world where nothing is controlled by memory or magic." Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. "Then let's follow it. If this is part of the promise, we see it through, no matter what." Lena nodded, heart pounding. Together, they followed the shadow down the glistening streets, past empty storefronts and rain-slicked cobblestones. Every step felt like a heartbeat in a story that stretched across years, across lifetimes. Finally, they reached a small, unassuming doorway tucked between two tall buildings. The shadow paused, turning toward them, then dissipated into the mist, leaving the door glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Lena glanced at Ethan. "This is it. The next part of the story." Ethan swallowed, his hand still holding hers. "Whatever's inside, we face it together." Taking a deep breath, Lena reached for the doorknob. The moment her fingers touched it, the door swung open silently, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. A soft golden light pulsed from below, like a heartbeat waiting for them. Her grandfather's voice called after them, warning and proud at once. "Remember, children, the promise protects you, but courage carries you. Step carefully." Lena looked at Ethan. "Are you ready?" He smiled, despite the tension. "Always." Hand in hand, they stepped into the staircase, descending into the unknown. And as the door slowly closed behind them, the faint echo of a familiar voice whispered through the air. The heart remembers, even when the mind forgets. Somewhere deep below, the light pulsed faster, beckoning them forward. And in that moment, Lena knew they were not just following a shadow. They were stepping into the very heart of the mystery their grandmother had left for them, a truth that would bind their lives forever or tear them apart. The spiral staircase seemed endless, twisting downwards into a soft, golden haze. Each step echoed beneath their feet, carrying with it the memory of storms, umbrellas, and promises made long ago. Lena felt the warmth of Ethan's hand, steadying her, grounding her as fear and anticipation twisted inside her chest. At the bottom of the staircase, they emerged into a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high above, dripping with stalactites of glowing crystal. The walls were lined with mirrors, but not ordinary ones. Each reflected not their faces, but their memories. Not just recent ones, but flashes of childhood, fragments of forgotten moments, and memories of people they had never met, yet somehow knew. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal. Upon it rested a small, intricately carved box. Its surface shimmered as if made of water and light at the same time. Lena stepped forward cautiously. This must be what Grandma wanted us to find. Ethan nodded, equally mesmerized. The promise, the memories, it's all tied to this. Her grandfather's voice echoed from the staircase above. Be careful. This is not just a box. It holds the truth of your family's legacy and the choice that defines your future. As Lena reached out, the mirrors around them rippled, and suddenly, the Watchers appeared. Not just one shadow, but dozens, stretching across the walls, their faceless forms bending reality itself. You were not supposed to return, one of them hissed, voice a chorus of anger and warning. The promise cannot be reclaimed. Ethan tightened his grip on Lena's hand. We won't let you stop us. The shadows lunged forward, but before they could reach them, Lena lifted the box from the pedestal. A surge of golden light erupted, bathing the chamber. The shadows recoiled, screeching, twisting back into the corners. Inside the box, Lena saw a folded piece of parchment and a small golden locket. The locket shimmered, glowing warmly in her palm. She opened it. Inside was a tiny, detailed image of the two of them as children, holding hands beneath the stained glass mural, exactly as she had remembered. And beneath the image was a simple inscription. To those who remember, love will guide you home. Lena's breath caught. It's all been about love. The bond, the promise, it was always about this. Ethan nodded, tears forming in his eyes. And we kept it, even without knowing. The shadows, the Watchers, hissed one last time, but the golden light from the locket spread outward, dissolving them into nothing. The chamber was calm again, glowing with a gentle, peaceful warmth. Her grandfather descended the staircase, smiling proudly. You've done what many thought impossible. You reclaimed your memories and honored your promise. The hall, the Watchers, they cannot touch you now. Lena looked at Ethan, hand still in his. So, this is the truth? That everything, the umbrella, the rain, the memories, was leading us to this moment. Ethan smiled softly. And now, we can finally live the lifetime we were promised. The chamber shimmered, the light wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Outside, they could hear the faint patter of rain, but it no longer felt threatening. It was gentle, comforting, like the universe itself was blessing their bond. And as Lena and Ethan stepped back toward the staircase, ready to return to the world above, Lena glanced at the locket once more. She whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else. We kept our promise together. A gentle smile spread across Ethan's face. Always. And somewhere, high above the city, the storm clouds parted, letting the first rays of sun illuminate a world where their story, finally, fully, was only just beginning. Just as Lena and Ethan began to climb the spiral staircase back to the streets, the chamber trembled. The golden light of the locket pulsed, and the mirrors on the walls rippled once more, not with shadows, but with faint, flickering images of people they had never met. Ancestors, friends, strangers, all watching, all waiting. Lena frowned. What now? I thought it was over. Her grandfather shook his head. The hall is never truly finished. Memories and promises echo through it. Even when the Watchers are gone, there are truths yet to be discovered. Your journey is not only about surviving, it's about understanding why your family's legacy matters. Ethan glanced at her. Do you think this is what Grandma meant? That our bond, what we feel now, wasn't just about us? Lena held the locket tight. I think she wanted us to remember that love isn't only about two people. It's about family, history, choices, and protecting what matters. The chamber's golden glow shifted, forming a faint doorway in one corner, unlike the staircase. A soft light poured through it, and Lena felt a gentle pull, like the hall itself was guiding them. Her grandfather's voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. If you go through that door, you'll see the full truth. The story of your grandmother, the Watchers, and the legacy you're meant to carry. But be warned, it will show things you might not be ready for. Ethan looked at Lena. We faced everything else together. We face this too. Lena nodded. Together. Hand in hand, they stepped through the glowing doorway. The world around them blurred and shifted. The golden light deepened, and suddenly they found themselves standing in a room unlike any they had ever seen. Walls made of glass and crystal, reflecting every possible version of themselves. Inside the center of the room was an enormous mirror, its surface alive with movement. Through it, Lena and Ethan saw a scene. Their younger selves, their grandmother, their grandfather, even fleeting images of people from their future, all moving together, laughing, crying, loving, and protecting one another. Lena gasped. It's our entire life, past, present, and future. A soft voice echoed from the mirror. Every choice, every promise, every bond, it all leads here. You have remembered, but the hall still offers you understanding. See not only who you are, but who you are meant to become. Ethan stepped closer to the mirror. Is this our destiny? Yes, the voice said. But destiny is not fixed. It is what you make of it. Love and courage are your guides. Suddenly, a shadow flitted across the mirror's surface, the last remnant of the Watchers. It hissed, twisting, but this time, the light of their bond repelled it completely. Lena looked at Ethan, eyes bright. I think we're ready. We've remembered everything we need to. And we know what matters. Ethan nodded. Then whatever comes next, we face it together. No matter what. The golden light enveloped them, pulling them back upward. The chamber, the hall, the memories, they all faded behind them, leaving only the real world. The streets, the rain, the city lights reflecting on the wet pavement. Her grandfather was waiting, smiling proudly. You did it, he said softly. You've learned what I could only hope you'd remember. And now, it's time to live your life fully. Lena and Ethan stood together in the rain, smiling. The storm had cleared, leaving the world fresh and alive, every drop of rain reflecting a story that had finally found its beginning, and its promise of forever. But in the distance, on a rooftop, a faint shadow lingered, watching, waiting, a reminder that some mysteries never completely fade. Lena turned to Ethan, squeezing his hand. Whatever comes next, we face it. Together. Ethan smiled, brushing rain-soaked hair from her face. Always. And this time, no storms will ever separate us. As they walked down the glistening streets, the umbrella they had shared so long ago lay forgotten at the corner where it had all begun. But Lena knew that it had never really been about the umbrella. It had been about the bond, the promise, and the lifetime they had finally found in the rain. The morning after the storm, the city sparkled like glass under the soft sunlight. Lena and Ethan walked slowly through streets still damp from the rain, their hands intertwined, savoring the quiet peace that followed the chaos of the hall. Her grandfather followed behind, carrying the groceries Lena had dropped days ago. He smiled warmly at them. You've changed, he said softly. Both of you. There's courage now, and clarity, and love. The kind that doesn't need magic to exist, though it seems you've had plenty guiding you. Lena laughed softly. I think I understand now. It was never just about surviving the storm, or the hall, or even the Watchers. It was about finding each other, remembering the promise, and knowing what matters. Ethan nodded, his eyes glimmering. And protecting it, all of it. That's what Grandma wanted. And maybe that's what she still wants from us. Her grandfather paused at the corner, pointing to a small bookstore that had survived the storm unscathed. "There's someone here," he said, "someone your grandmother mentioned. She said you'd meet them once you remembered everything." Intrigued, Lena and Ethan stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled softly. The shop smelled of old books and rain-soaked paper. At the back, a woman stood arranging journals on a shelf. She looked up and smiled. Her eyes were warm and knowing, like someone who had been waiting for this exact moment. "Lena, Ethan," she said softly, "I've been expecting you. Your grandmother told me you'd return, stronger and ready. There's something important you need to see." From behind the counter, she pulled out a small, leather-bound book. Its cover bore an embossed symbol, a heart entwined with a key. Lena's eyes widened. She had seen this symbol in the hall. "This is the Chronicle," the woman explained. "It contains the memories of your family, the legacy of the hall, and the truths your grandmother wanted preserved. It's meant for you, so that the promise is never forgotten and the watchers can never return." Ethan ran his fingers over the cover. "So, all of it, the hall, the storms, the memories, it's been recorded here? For us to continue?" "Yes," the woman nodded. "And more than that, the Chronicle will guide you, teach you, and protect the bond you share. But remember, its power is in your choices. You must live your lives with courage and love, or it is only a book." Lena opened it carefully. Inside were pages filled with illustrations of her childhood, Ethan's, and memories she had forgotten, or perhaps had never known were theirs together. There were maps, letters, and even small sketches of the umbrella that had brought them together. Ethan smiled at her. "I guess we have our story now, and we get to write the next chapter ourselves." Lena nodded, her heart full. "Together. Always." The woman behind the counter watched them, a faint smile on her lips. "Your grandmother trusted you, and she was right. But one thing remains, a final message from her. The hall was never the end. It was the beginning. And those who remember guide the future." Outside, the sun broke fully through the clouds, scattering rainbows across the streets. Lena and Ethan stepped out of the bookstore, hand in hand, feeling the warmth of the day and the weight of the legacy they had reclaimed. And as they walked, Lena glanced at Ethan and whispered, "Do you think the Watchers are really gone?" Ethan smiled, squeezing her hand. "Maybe not completely. But we know how to face them now, and nothing, not storms, not shadows, will ever break us." As they rounded the corner, they passed the street where it had all begun. The same sidewalk, the same corner, the same drizzle of rain lingering in the air. And there, lying forgotten, was a small navy blue umbrella. Lena picked it up and looked at Ethan. "Maybe. It's time for a new beginning." Ethan laughed softly. "Then let's share it one more time." And together, under the gentle drizzle of a lingering rain, they walked forward, toward the future, toward love, and toward a lifetime of promises kept. But somewhere high above, on the rooftops, a faint shadow lingered. Watching. Waiting. Not quite gone. Because some stories, Lena realized, never truly end. Weeks passed, and the city returned to its normal rhythm. Lena and Ethan had settled into a comforting routine: work, walks through the glistening streets, evenings spent reading from the chronicle their grandmother had left behind. Every day, they felt the bond between them deepen, a mix of romance, friendship, and shared history that defied time itself. Yet, despite the warmth and laughter in their lives, a quiet unease lingered. Every so often, Lena would catch a flicker of movement above the rooftops, a shadow too precise to be a bird, too deliberate to be a trick of the sunlight on rain-soaked glass. One evening, as golden light spilled across the streets, Lena and Ethan walked hand in hand to the corner where the umbrella had first brought them together. She held it above their heads, laughing as Ethan pretended to struggle against the weight. "Do you ever think about the hall?" Lena asked quietly, her voice barely audible over the soft drizzle. Ethan squeezed her hand. "All the time. But I also know this: we survived it. Whatever comes next, we face it together. She smiled, but her eyes wandered to the rooftops. I just feel like we're not done yet. Like someone, or something, is still out there. Ethan followed her gaze and stiffened. Across the street, a tall shadow stood on a rooftop, motionless. Lena's heart skipped. It wasn't moving like the usual birds or passing clouds. It was watching. Not the watchers, are they? Lena whispered, fear mingled with curiosity. Ethan gripped the umbrella handle tighter. Maybe, or maybe a remnant. Something left behind when the hall closed. Suddenly, the shadow flickered and vanished into the haze above. Lena and Ethan exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. This is far from over, Ethan said softly. I know, Lena replied. But whatever it is, we'll face it. Like always. As they continued walking, the umbrella shielding them from the gentle rain, Lena opened the chronicle again. The pages glimmered faintly, as if responding to her heartbeat. A note they had never noticed before slipped out from between the pages. To those who remember, the bond is your guide, but vigilance is your shield. Even when the light seems strong, shadows linger. Trust in each other, and the promise will endure. Lena tucked the note into her coat pocket, feeling its weight. The hall taught us something important, she said. Love isn't just about surviving storms. It's about being ready for whatever comes after. Ethan smiled, brushing rain-soaked hair from her face. Then let's be ready. Together. For everything. They walked down the street, hand in hand, the umbrella between them. And though the city appeared peaceful, Lena's gaze flicked upward once more. A faint shadow lingered, watching from the rooftops, a reminder that even in sunlight, some mysteries never fully disappear. And somewhere in the quiet wind, Lena thought she heard her grandmother's voice, warm and soft. The story continues, if you are brave enough to live it. Autumn had settled over the city, painting the streets with gold and crimson leaves. Lena and Ethan had grown accustomed to the quiet rhythm of life after the storm, yet the memory of the hall, and the faint shadow that sometimes lingered, never fully left them. One afternoon, as they wandered through the marketplace, Lena noticed a small, curious shop tucked between two larger buildings. Its sign read simply, Curiosities and Secrets. Something about it made her pause. Do you feel that? She whispered to Ethan. He tilted his head, scanning the shop's dim interior through the glass window. Yeah, like it's waiting for us. Inside, the shop was cramped, filled with trinkets, glass jars, and odd-looking books. At the counter sat a woman with silver hair, her eyes bright and knowing. She smiled as Lena and Ethan entered. I've been expecting you, the woman said. Her voice was soft but carried authority. Your grandmother sent me a message. She said you'd remember the hall, and that the next part of your journey would find you here. Lena exchanged a glance with Ethan. Another message from Grandma? What is this? The woman gestured to a small, wooden box on the counter. Carved into its lid was the same heart and key symbol from the chronicle. Inside this box is a fragment left behind by the Watchers, what remains of their power. They may have been defeated, but not all their influence is gone. This fragment can lead to knowledge or danger. You must decide whether to open it. Ethan stepped forward. We faced the hall, the Watchers, everything. If this is part of the promise, we face it together. Right, Lena? She nodded, holding his hand tightly. Together. Always. The woman lifted the lid. A soft golden light spilled out, revealing a delicate, swirling crystal inside. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Lena felt a familiar pull in her chest, the same one she'd felt in the hall, guiding her toward memory and truth. This is their last fragment, the woman explained. It can show you what the Watchers tried to hide, truths about your grandmother's past, and why the hall exists. But be warned, it will test your bond. Only those who trust completely can see safely. Lena and Ethan exchanged a glance, then nodded. Together, they leaned over the crystal. The golden light enveloped them, and suddenly, the marketplace dissolved around them. They were standing on a cliff overlooking the hall, but not the hall they had known. Their grandmother's youth, her courage, and how she had first bound the hall to protect the family. The Watcher's origin, creatures born from broken promises and forgotten memories, existing only to challenge those who dared to reclaim what was lost. The lineage of the heart and key bond, a magical but emotional connection meant to protect love, family, and memory across generations. Lena gasped, seeing an image of herself and Ethan as children again, under the stained glass mural, holding sugar cubes. "It was always us," she whispered. "We were meant to be together, always." Ethan squeezed her hand. "And we remembered, even when they tried to erase it." The Watchers roared, but the book's light grew stronger. It pulled Lena and Ethan's bond into the center of the hall, creating a golden thread connecting their hearts. The shadows twisted violently, but one by one, they dissolved under the strength of that bond, leaving the hall calm and radiant. Her grandmother appeared in the light, smiling, just as Lena remembered her. "You've done it," she said softly. "You've reclaimed the promise, faced the shadows, and remembered everything. Love, courage, and family, these are your shields. Never forget them." Lena stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "Grandma, it's over, isn't it?" She smiled gently. "For now. The hall exists as long as memories exist. But you are the guardians of what is good, brave, and true. Protect it, teach it, live it." Ethan glanced at Lena, a warmth spreading through him. "We'll do it. Together." Her grandmother's voice softened into a whisper, "Together, always." The chamber shimmered and began to dissolve, the light drawing them upward, back to the world outside. The storm had cleared, leaving the city sparkling under the golden sun. The umbrella, lying on the corner where it all began, was still there, waiting. Lena picked it up, smiling at Ethan. "Maybe it's time to make some new memories." Ethan laughed softly. "Then let's start. Together." And as they walked hand in hand through the sunlit streets, the golden thread of their bond glowing faintly in their hearts, Lena knew one thing for certain. Some stories never truly end. They simply grow brighter with every promise kept, every storm weathered, and every moment shared together. And somewhere, high above, a single shadow lingered, not threatening, not angry, but watching, waiting to see the next chapter unfold. Years had passed since the hall, the crystal, and the last remnants of the Watchers faded into memory. Lena and Ethan had grown into a rhythm of life both ordinary and extraordinary. They lived in a cozy apartment near the corner where the umbrella first brought them together, their days filled with laughter, work, and the quiet magic of being together. Every morning, the golden sun glinted off the chronicle and the companion book, now safely displayed on a shelf in their living room. They often sat together, tracing the images of themselves as children, the sugar cubes, the stained glass mural, and the symbols that had guided them through storms, both literal and emotional. Their families were close. The bond with Lena's grandfather and grandmother deepened now by shared knowledge and trust. The legacy of the hall, the promise, and the Watchers had transformed into stories they told, carefully, to keep the magic alive without fear. One rainy afternoon, as they walked hand in hand through the quiet streets, Lena held the navy blue umbrella over them, smiling. "Do you ever think about that first storm?" she asked softly. Ethan chuckled, brushing a stray lock of wet hair from her face. "All the time. I think about how terrified we were, and how we found each other anyway." Lena looked up at him, eyes bright. "And we've kept the promise. Always." He squeezed her hand gently. "Always." As they passed the corner where it all began, Lena noticed something unusual. A small shadow flickered across the rooftops above, but this time it didn't feel threatening. Instead, it seemed curious, like an observer. Lena tilted her head, smiling. "You think they're still watching?" Ethan laughed softly. "Maybe. Or maybe they're just making sure we don't forget the lessons we learned." The wind stirred, carrying a faint, familiar voice. Lena's grandmother. So encouraging. "Remember the promise, and live the life you've earned. Love, courage, and family will guide you." Lena turned to Ethan, and they both laughed softly, the sound echoing in the rain-slicked streets. "We've got this," she said. Ethan nodded, eyes shining. "Together. No storms, no shadows, nothing can break us now." the umbrella tilted above their heads, shielding them from the drizzle as they walked forward into the glowing city. The Chronicle and its secrets had shown them their past, their strength, and their bond, but the future was theirs to write. And high above, the shadow lingered one last time, watching not with menace, but with respect, fading slowly into the clouds, leaving the world bright, alive, and full of possibilities. Because some promises, like love, are eternal. Several years later, the city was alive with the first rain of spring. Lena and Ethan strolled down their favorite street, the navy blue umbrella between them. Puddles reflected the golden glow of the streetlights, and the smell of fresh rain filled the air. Lena laughed as Ethan splashed through a particularly large puddle, water spraying up and soaking the hems of his trousers. "Ethan, you promised no more puddle disasters." He grinned, shaking the droplets off his hair. "And I kept my promise, mostly. Look, the umbrella survived." She held it higher, smiling, and bumped her shoulder gently against his. "You know, I think this umbrella has seen more of our life than anything else. Storms, rain, memories, and us." Ethan glanced at her, his eyes soft. "Did. But the important part? We're still standing. Together. Always." A small child ran past them, chasing a paper boat in a puddle. Lena smiled, kneeling to watch the boat drift. "Remember the sugar cubes? The mural? All of it, it led us here." Ethan crouched beside her, taking her hand. "And it was worth it. Every step, every storm, every shadow." Above them, a faint glimmer of light peeked through the clouds, like the memory of the hall smiling down on them. Lena tilted her head, laughing softly. "You think it's still watching us?" Ethan wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Maybe, but we've learned something important. Shadows can't touch what's strong, what's real, what's ours." Lena rested her head on his shoulder, the umbrella barely keeping them dry. "Then let's make more memories. Rain or shine." He kissed the top of her head. "Rain and shine. Always." And as the drizzle fell around them, they walked on, the umbrella bobbing gently above their heads, their laughter echoing through the streets. Somewhere far above, the last traces of the watcher's shadow faded completely, leaving only warmth, light, and the promise of a lifetime shared together.